All right, it's the Security Weekly News. Happy New Year week. I'm recording this from the distant past and the distant dusty past. But today we got two great interviews from the OneCon conference, which happened earlier this year at the SentinelOne OneCon. And today we've got Brian Mendenhall from AWS and Rachel Park from SentinelOne talking about a lot of AI stuff and a lot of the content in the SentinelOne product. So it's a pretty interesting couple of interviews. So stick around.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News. Ever feel like your network infrastructure is stuck in the past? Meet Meter, the company reimagining what it means to get and stay online. Meter delivers full-stack networking, wired, wireless, and cellular, all in one seamless, scalable, and secure solution. From hardware design and firmware to software, deployment, and support, Meter streamlines every part of your network while giving you all the control and transparency you need. Whether you're managing a branch office, retail stores, or a massive data center, Meter gives you performance, reliability, and the visibility you need to stay in control. Thanks to Meter for sponsoring. Go to securityweekly.com/meter to book a demo now. That's securityweekly.com/meter, METER. Ransomware, supply chain attacks, 0 days. Cyber threats don't wait, and neither should your defenses. With ThreatLocker, you're not just reacting to threats, you're stopping them before they start. Our zero trust endpoint protection locks down your environment with pinpoint control over what's allowed to run and what's not. No guesswork, no blind spots, just proactive, built-for-now security that keeps your business moving. Want to see how a true default deny strategy works? Head over to securityweekly.com/threatlocker and take the first step towards shutting the door on threats before they even knock. Well, welcome back to SentinelOne OneCon 25. I'm Doug White from Security Weekly News, and we're here at the lovely Cosmopolitan Hotel. It's much better than the last one we did at the Lucky Cuss, which is a real hotel. Hey, Lucky Cuss, you know we love you. $15 a night.
I had no idea.
It's
You might not survive the night, right?
It's over off Fremont Street, but you know.
Hey, you know what? Shoot your shot. There was a time in life, right?
Yeah. Well, I get a chance to talk to Brian Mendenhall today. Brian is the worldwide head of security and identity partner specialist at AWS.
Longest title possible. Yeah.
Well, you know, that way they give you a bigger door.
That's exactly it.
Or they abbreviate it
The
all.
thing that goes on the desk, it's just,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
I think my title is like host. That's why I get that little bit.
I think as you move up, it goes down, and eventually it'll just be AWS. Brian Mendenhall, AWS.
Yeah, why not? Well, that would be, well, it's nice that, yeah, your company's now is that like that small.
Yeah.
And it's like IBM. Everybody knows what it is now. You don't have to go AWS and everything. And what is that exactly?
It's a startup. Nobody's heard of it.
Yeah, but no, yeah. Today we can say AWS, and I think everybody's on board now, don't you think? Yeah, okay. Now what do we do? Okay, I got it.
Talk about some stuff. Let's do it. I'm here.
Okay, so yeah, so one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because when I do these, I always read the people's like sheets and everything, and I sort of think, what would I ask? And all the stuff here was right up my alley because I teach IDS at the university.
Yes.
I've been doing that kind of stuff in the industry and in, you know, forever, like 100 years, you know, and like when before they added the L to Unix,
Yeah.
you know, kind of stuff. And one of the things that I kind of wanted to talk to you about was like, there's this sort of expanding cloud of gas that starts at an endpoint. And originally it ended there. There was a wire that came to my mainframe station and I went, who just logged in?
Yep.
Is that you, Bill? Okay. Yeah, you're okay because you didn't make me mad this week.
Yep.
And then we networked it all, and then we networked it again, and then we networked it again, and now we're in this place that I kind of call the fog. And you know, it's an endpoint, it's a network, it's a virtual network that's backhauled through the cloud to another network on another place.
Do people say nodes anymore? Was that everything? Or is that just me?
Yeah,
I don't know.
No, it was like I haven't heard it, but yeah, I remember when everybody said nodes.
I am also like of the kilt. Like it's I've been around for a while. I remember that the Linux, the Unix, the HPUX, like all of the UXs. So and then the nodes, the bumps.
The UXs.
Yeah.
Yeah, HPUX, Solaris.
Yeah. Oh boy.
So we just said Solaris on camera.
Am I allowed to say that when I work at AWS?
I don't know. Solaris doesn't even exist anymore, does
Yeah,
it?
then we're
I
good.
mean, is it still there?
Statute of limitations.
I don't even think they have that anymore. I know we should talk about what we're supposed to talk about.
Yeah, security.
But I guess yeah. Well, Solaris, yes. I guess what I was wondering is, I mean, since you're in that very foggy space of AWS, and I know now that like my endpoint is attached to you. It's also attached to somebody else. That somebody else attached to somebody else, and on and on and on and on. And I'm sharing files with Sharon in Singapore that is sharing files with Bill in, I don't know, Johannesburg.
Right.
And all of that is going through you and maybe some other parties all at the same time. So how do you think that organizations start to deal with this expanding ball of gas that to me is just almost overwhelming? I mean, as an IDS person, security person, I start thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do here. It's pretty terrifying. So
I think the answer, if I look at my notes, is you just throw some AI at it, and then it just like the web
all problem solved.
solves itself, is what I've been told. No, don't do that. I'm just kidding. No, it's I mean, if you look at like the CISO's handbook, right? Step one is literally, what do you got? What is out there? What is in your environment? And auditing and discovery of your environment and how these systems are interconnected is like the first step in evaluating your risk, right? You have no idea what your risk is if you don't know what's out there, how it's all talking to each other, what security controls are in place around your goodies, and then what's the value on each of these assets and what is it talking to, right? You tip something over here, and then all of a sudden your accounting server over here goes down, and you need to know what those interconnected dependencies are.
Oh, I mean, I think it's beyond even security. It's even just like, I patch this, that crashes, and oh yeah, and that affects this thing over here. And that's one reason people don't patch, because they're terrified of this house of cards that is all this. So how do you start that? I mean, I'm 100% with you. I've been yapping about that for years and years, about you got to know what you have.
Yes. I mean, there's tools out there, right? Like there are solutions out there that can do automatic discovery, either at like the endpoint level, at the network level, at the server level, what we call like the infrastructure workload or application level. Having a good tool to help, but also understanding like from a top-down approach, I think is really important as well. Like, what are the environments that I'm in, and then what is the right tool for the job in order to do some of that discovery? So like quick plug on the AWS side, we have things like Macy. Macy is an AWS service that customers can use to do auto discovery. It's more in like the data side, but data is just another angle of the same discussion of like my endpoints and nodes. Same thing with data. Like, what data do I have? Where is it? What is in it? And then how is it protected?
Well, yeah, I mean, I used to do consulting for what you can tell how old it is, disaster recovery planning, which is now called business continuity.
Right.
Back then they would call it disaster, because it was like, just tell it like it is. Come on. And that was one of the first questions that we asked people. And that was long before AWS was just 3 letters.
Yeah.
And, just where's your data?
Yeah.
Do you know? And even then, when it was like probably in the server room,
Yeah.
they still usually didn't know.
100%.
And today they probably honestly don't know.
How many, like, I'm curious, people that are watching this, how many people are still using spreadsheets? Like, I did the spreadsheet thing 20 years ago.
Lots of
I've
people
been there.
are using spreadsheets.
Yeah, like it's real,
I did an audit once. So this was like Sarbanes, and one of the questions we were asking was, where's your data? Where's everything? And we found something like 100,000 spreadsheets, and nobody knew what most of them were. They just put they're all over the place. And I'm like, well, do any of these have critical data?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I think it's become very onerous from the perspective of just hardware, software management.
Yep.
As it spreads into this cloud of everything. And then that actually brings to the question of interconnectivity. we now see these chains that are terrifying to me
Yeah.
because I write a piece of code. I download a library off of NumPy, or not NumPy, PyPy.
Huh?
NumPy, however you want to say it. I don't care. I say NumPy and people don't like it. And they say, but it's a whole thing.
Gift.
But, I mean, I install 5 libraries in my Python code, and then you add some libraries. Well, and then I add your library, and your library adds somebody else's library, and suddenly I've got this huge chain of things, and then it's spread across the globe. And we see these outages like DNS fails and like half the world stops working, all afternoon. How do we start dealing with that? I mean,
Yeah, there's so many components to that, right? Because you've got like your software, supply chain and bill of materials. You've got like your security bill of materials as a part of that. And then you've also got like the interdependencies within your security providers as well, right? Like how many software solutions, software as a service or ISV software products are out there that wholly own and build every single piece of what is in their technology stack? It's zero, I guarantee you, right? Software vendors are using other software vendors to build the software products that they sell to customers. And oftentimes those things go down or change happens somewhere in this life cycle of chains, and then it breaks something else. And it is, if you look at it, it's a big circle, right?
right.
So, it could be like some small thing happens in some far off place, and then an application goes down over here, which causes a massive outage somewhere else. And it's all because of these software supply chains. And it's at the code level. It's even at the macro level of the software itself that's being used in other.
And it's even starting to filter into like the micro hardware level.
Oh yeah.
I mean, UEFI and all that kind of stuff has become problematic too. So how are people starting to embed AI into all these things?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we started with everything has to have AI. My toothbrush has AI. But we are seeing that. I think I see a lot of the potential there as well as the threat surface. But where is it going?
It's the right formula. It's the right formula in that you've got generative AI, which is an intelligent decision based on the data that it sees, right? In natural language. So you've got this like brain that can make smart decisions, and the better trained, the smarter it is, we hope, right? And the more fidelity you get in those decisions. And then you've got this agentic piece, which is the interconnectivity of multiple, typically disparate systems. Right. And so now you've got all the things that you need in order to do this at scale across multiple systems. So if you've got like, this company that provides your network layer, and then you've got this company that does your endpoint protection, this company, you've got the UXs at your server, layer, and they all need to talk to each other, you can have this kind of like agentic architecture with a centralized generative AI to be able to just ask a plain text question. What do I got? Like, what is in my environment? What is out there? What are my software chain, risks and things that are out there? And you can get, theoretically, you can get real answers back.
That makes sense. I mean, I can really see that, I mean, I need it. And I don't even have a large scale operation, but I mean, I can't quite fathom anymore, what it's going to look like if I was having to audit a worldwide network that was spread across not just AWS, but there's many, many providers of these, these kind of hyperscalers and so forth. I love them. I wish I had more money to spend on them because they're awesome, but it also just is very, very frightening to me because even just in my little tiny world at the school, I build a lot of like hyperscaler-esque kind of things for my students. So they have stuff to play with, right? And I have all these servers and all these things that are all just virtual machines and they're all sitting there. But I see very quickly how I lose the thread of what all that stuff is. I mean, I have whiteboards covered in all these, different things and what they do. And even then I've already started going, what is that?
Yeah.
I was scanning my network the other day. I was like, what is that? And
well, I think that the risk too that we face is that now that we have these machines making these intelligent decisions based on the data that it sees, now that you've inventoried, the next thing for you to ask it is, build something else, build this thing, build this new thing. And then the complexity continues to increase of this, like basically what is mapping out the internet at this point, right? Okay. And so I expect that we're going to continue to see more complexity in how things are.
It's going to get worse.
It's going to get way worse. In what is actually being deployed, the interface and usability might be simpler, for people to use, but what is produced and created, I think, is going to get more complicated.
It's almost like maybe another layer slides in there. I mean, it's almost like another layer of virtualization between all of the actual hypervisory kind of stuff,
Yeah.
then all the virtual stuff laying on top of it. It's almost like maybe another layer of virtualization has to slide in there. That's the human comprehension layer.
Yeah.
So that we're allowing your customers that are using these massive spaces to be able to actually comprehend what's there. Because I think it's just going to get too overwhelming.
It is. And, I made a mistake. I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and I was like, AI, before it automates a response, you've got man in the middle. I'm like, wait, that's not right. Not man in the middle. Human in the loop. That's the right one.
Oh, okay.
Man in the middle is like a type of security attack.
I know, yeah.
But that human in the loop piece is definitely important. And I wonder how many people are asking their AI systems to simplify what they already have.
Yeah.
Like, how often do we do that? How often do we say, like, make this more efficient, reduce, maybe the optimization piece of that, I think is going to be really important.
Yeah, I used to call that scale back or optimization. And that was something that we looked at with clients, that were even long ago having those kind of incidents where they just literally couldn't fathom it anymore. They didn't keep their docs up. They had a network diagram that Bill drew back in, 89. It wasn't updated. Yeah. I mean, that was, we'd always ask for the network diagram, and I'm like, okay, this is literally dated 89. I'm like, who is Bill? And they're like, oh yeah, Bill retired in 93. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God. And we saw tons of those.
Yeah.
And then it was really hard to do incident response. But
Yeah.
I used to do incident response. If you would call me and I would come in, and I'm like, we have no idea.
Yeah.
And that was in the physical world.
Yes.
When I started dealing with this stuff, it's just crazy. I mean, I got all this stuff connected up there. In fact, I wanted to ask you something. I don't know if it's even related, but I didn't know what it meant. One of the terms I saw on the sheets that I was looking at was co-building.
Okay.
And that was about partnerships with AWS. I'm hoping they'll give me a free one, but but I mean, I was wondering if you could tell me what that means actually.
Yeah. Yeah. So the idea here is that we at AWS, we've got a massive amount of customer signal. What are customers asking for? How do they want to consume it? What do they want it to look like, touch, feel? What's the experience and what's the outcome? And so, the idea here is that we're so uniquely positioned to be able to say, hey, you know what? Let's bring in some of our partners that have the absolute best capabilities in the world, work with them to have this kind of like integrated solution that drives that outcome. And now they're getting the best of both worlds. It's that, like, I hate this term, but I'm going to say it. I'll be mad at myself for saying this, but like the 1 + 1 = 3 concept.
Okay.
But it's just, it's a gross business term. But the idea is that, like, when we combine the unique differentiated capabilities of SentinelOne plus AWS native security services like Security Hub and Guard Duty and some of the things that we have on the truck, we have an opportunity to build something really, really unique that drives an incremental value to the customers and has a seamless experience. That's the mental model that we're approaching here. And we want to make sure that we've mapped out the customer taxonomy of security of, whether it's endpoint detection and response, it's SIM, it's SOAR, it's NDR, it can be all kinds of different things. And I just threw out a ton of acronyms. I apologize for that. But when we work with our partners to build something that is hyper integrated, a seamless experience, and a really, really like strong outcome, the customers win. And ultimately that is what is absolutely most important.
I mean, part of me loves the way that sounds.
Yeah.
Part of me is scared of it. It sounds awesome.
Yeah.
But it also sounds, again, it's back into this just expanding cloud of gas, and there's this massive space that, that is all there.
So something tangible, right? Something tangible, like an example of where we've done this, is AWS Security Incident Response and hyperautomation with SentinelOne. So the idea is that with AWS, we have a group of responders that are able to help customers when they're having a really bad day, and they're dealing with a security incident. We have telemetry that we can help bring forth, and then we can help kind of coordinate a lot of these things. But the SentinelOne hyperautomation is literally all of those workflows, and all that data flows directly into that incident response engagement. So customers don't need to look at, like we were talking earlier, where's my stuff? What is in scope of the breach or incident? What is out of scope? All that flows in with the workflows into a singular incident response engagement.
And so that starts to look like an autonomous SOC.
It looks like one thing to the customer, and it looks like an autonomous SOC.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a pretty nice thing to have.
Yeah.
I mean, I like it. I mean, I wish I had one, but
Hey, I wouldn't mind one either.
yeah, it would be handy, right? I could run it at my house.
I wouldn't mind. Like the number of times that I get those emails like, hey, we're a healthcare company or somebody, we've had a breach and your social security number is now Googleable. That's not great. So
Yeah. I don't want to see my electric bill if I start running it. But we already get those notices saying you use 25% more electricity than everyone else.
yeah. Sorry, it's a data center in the garage.
I have a data center in my basement. So
Yeah,
it's like I own my servers and my racks, but we don't need heat. So it's just like, yeah, I used to heat my office with server racks. Yeah. And that's the whole house. My office was heated with server racks.
That's amazing.
It was, I had like 12 servers in there because I was running all my virtualization for school at my house.
Okay.
And that way my students had access to all kinds of cool stuff.
Do you do like hot side, cold side?
Yeah.
So like on the summer days, you switch to the cold side?
Yeah, no, we weren't able to. On the summer days, we put up lots of air conditioning units, turned them on. And then the electrical, we did the whole town dimmed when I did that and that kind of thing. All right. Well, thanks to Brian Mendenhall for joining us, the Worldwide Head of Security and Identity Partner Specialist at AWS. I'm going to shorten that part. Be sure to check out all our content from OneCon 25. Thanks for watching. I'm Doug White for Security Weekly News. If this interview is sponsored by SentinelOne, if you'll visit securityweekly.com/OneCon, you can see this interview and other information about SentinelOne. And, well, you know what AWS is. So please check it out. Thanks. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
All right. I'm back. They let me come back after the last one. It still happened. We're at OneCon 25 at the beautiful Cosmopolitan Hotel. Not even close to the last one I did at the Lucky Cuss, which is over on Fremont Street. And, lots of chalk outline. I'm sorry, Lucky Cuss. I love you. But I got the chance here late in the day with the, they've got the happy hour going on. So there's all kinds of drinking and carousing and stuff going on behind the cameras. You're not going to get to see that unless people stumble on the set. But I got lucky, and I've got Rachel Park, who is the Senior Director of Product Marketing at SentinelOne, that came to join me for this last interview of the day,
Right.
which is really, really cool. So I was really happy to see that you were going to join me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's cool. So one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is identity management.
Great.
So you mentioned that earlier, and I was like, oh, identity management. Because I'm obsessed with identity management. I think it's one of the greatest threats we have.
Yeah.
I think it's a huge problem in the industry. And I think the addition of non-human agents to that, which becomes part of the identity management problem, is an even greater threat than Bert down in sales,
Right.
who has already been a threat.
Yeah.
But now I've got 50 bots that are also doing sales that I have no idea what they're going to do. So, I mean, what do you think about that?
I think you're absolutely spot on. We typically talk about threats in two ways. We talk about what are hackers going after, and that's usually the data conversation, and we'll talk about that. But at the end of the day, where does the threat really originate from? And it is, to your point, with the identity. And I think one thing that we have been very thoughtful about is looking at identity management much more holistically from a security perspective. And that's why we've been very intentional when we think about singularity endpoint and singularity identity and unifying that together, because you need to have the context of not only your identities and how they relate to different endpoints, but how those endpoints then can connect to access to different pieces of data as well. And so having that holistic view is super important for us here.
So, I mean, so let me go back to employees to start.
Right.
We'll stick with the humans for a minute.
Sure.
I used to do audits, and one of our first audit questions was, who works for you?
Right.
And I don't know, probably 99% of the time the answer was, that's a good question.
Yeah.
So how do I get, just starting with the humans, how do I get my hands around that? I mean, controlling what they're doing, who has access to what, in this modern problem? Because the modern problem is much bigger than what I was doing.
Yeah.
I could go to the mainframe and dump the user list
Right.
and go, here are all the users.
Right.
Show me which ones you don't know who they are, and let's figure that out. Today, I've got third-party vendors. I've got cloud-based people. I've got people I've never seen who work for me that I don't know if they're in North Korea or they're in South Carolina.
Yeah.
And how do I start to get a handle on that?
Yeah. I think, and I hate to be the person to always bring AI into the conversation, but it's something that we think quite deeply about. For us, it's two parts of the equation. There is a data access part of the equation, and then there is, okay, well, how do I actually access the data, query the data to get information on all of these different identities? And that's where AI comes in. We did a really cool demo and announcement today, actually, where we highlighted that with Purple AI, for example, you would be able to easily query native third-party logs, particularly if you were to have potentially a compromised identity alert. And you, in one simple click with Purple AI's auto investigations, Purple actually hypothesized that there might be a compromised identity, queries the Okta logs, taps into Singularity hyperautomation, slacks the user and says, hey, user, did you happen to actually log in from this random location? We can't really verify you. And can get the verification, can continue the investigation, and then in a single click, verify with Okta, Proofpoint, EDR, Zscaler, get all of the context, and then immediately take responsive action, mitigative action, including locking down, suspending the user in Okta, locking down access to different pieces of critical data in S3 buckets. It's really one example of a tool that can kind of jump in there.
So, and your product's called Purple AI, which
Yes.
I had read about. And so that's almost an autonomous incident response process. Is that?
Yes. I would say it's autonomous across the entire SOC analyst workflow. From triage, where Purple will actually automatically look at every single alert, see how similar alerts have been dealt with, give you a verdict of a potential true positive, highlight the context of it in a summary, to actually, in a single click, begin investigating that alert, trying to validate and see if this is actually a true incident, to suggesting potential mitigative actions via Singularity hyperautomation, to even thinking proactively and saying, okay, we've identified this situation. Should we create a custom detection rule to identify any potential similar alerts and what we should do to mitigate that? And so from the very beginning to the very end, Purple AI can actually help you at every single stage of process.
I mean, that makes sense because that process, which I've outlined, not that process, but the old-fashioned process,
Right.
which was an analyst,
Right.
who is usually the newest employee,
Yeah.
sees Bert log in on a weird IP and then starts a process with a flowchart.
Exactly.
So, but the AI can take that to the next level, right?
Yeah, I think we're going from a place right now, or rather, I would say right now we're at an inflection point where AI is so advanced that you're starting to see this paradigm shift of humans doing the work and they're getting assisted by AI for specific actions, to where we can go now, which is AI agentically doing that work for you as the human analyst, summarizing that work, suggesting pre-approved actions, and giving the analyst the full commander seat place to approve and guide AI to continue its work. And so that's just really unlocking a lot of scale.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody earlier about like injecting a kind of layer between the humans
Totally.
and this whole process, because it seems like when I look at it today, the process is becoming so complex.
Yeah.
Because now I've got users logging in from all over the world,
Yeah.
connecting to a virtual switch on AWS or whatever, and they have massive access, and I don't have a clue who that person really is, and I need somebody to start watching. So does that expand and start watching, say, like behaviors? Or it's just looking at you mentioned some things like, oh, it's a strange IP address.
Right.
But what if it's a normal IP address and it's the person's behavior that's weird, because they immediately start trying to look at, say, like a good old Etsy shadow kind of a
Right.
thing. Yeah.
So I think one thing that's really incredible, that's something that we're very proud of at SentinelOne, is we've been doing this for a really long time. We've been working with AI and autonomous security for about a decade now. And what you just described is exactly part of the multi-layered autonomous system that we have established. So starting with behavioral and static AI detections, which we are constantly improving on, this is actually how we made our mark in the industry. And we have that within our Singularity endpoint, Singularity identity, cloud security protections. And then on top of that, you layer on our agentic AI capabilities, our automation capabilities, you actually have a multi-layered approach. And so for your example, absolutely, immediately our detections would catch on and say, behaviorally, something is quite different. It would create that alert, and then you can apply Purple AI on top of that and immediately begin investigating that alert, figuring out the mitigative action.
I mean, I think that starts to move towards solving some of that problem. Because
Right.
I just know from historically, I started when I literally was sitting at a terminal and I could see the names of every node
Yeah.
that connected. And I could literally just look out in the room and go, I don't know that guy. And I could walk in there and go, who are you?
Yeah.
Why are you logged in? And they go, oh, I'm a new student in engineering and I just connected the mainframe. And I'm like, oh, can I see your ID?
Yeah.
I got that. But today, that's not what we're dealing with. I mean, I have students I've never seen. You know, I have students that are remote students, that are online students that I've never met. I have no idea who they are. They could be bots.
Yeah.
And that worries me a lot. The other thing I want to ask you about this a little bit was we've seen on the security side a rise in things like deep fakes and a lot and seeing that exploit user identity. So, for instance, I did one where essentially a fake voice called an employee and basically told them to turn the key on transferring a bunch of funds to that account number. And because it sounded like the CFO,
Right.
they did it.
Right.
And they lost a bunch of money. And you know, my answer to them was, well, the money's gone. You know, let's just start there and say the money's gone. Now, what can we do to prevent this from happening in the future? So does this kind of start to encompass that as well? I mean,
Yeah, I think so. And there's two parts to it. The first part is you're absolutely seeing an increased adoption of AI-powered threats from attackers. And we do talk about deepfakes. You're not seeing it at such a large-scale degree right now, but I think in the broader sense, what we are seeing in recent research is the fact when you think about identity, to your point, we're now seeing examples like prompt lock, malterminal, ransomware 3.0. We're seeing where LLMs themselves are generating new ransomware code in real time. And there's that example of ransomware 3.0, which is actually executing every single stage of an attack by itself. So it does the reconnaissance, does the payload creation, it does the ransom negotiation. And while it may not be as widespread, the fact that we've gone in less than a year from these early AI malware prototypes to actual credible demos of fully autonomous attack chains is highly concerning. I think it just begs the question of how do you respond at speed and scale to actually mitigate that type of threat? And then to your other point is, you gave an example of you can see a person in the room. I think it's a question about data, because now we're at this scale where data is probably your most critical piece to begin with in order to stay secure. And that's why bringing in Observo AI has been so critical for us, because this is the tool that's inherently an AI SIEM that allows you to immediately ingest clean data from every source. It applies AI and modeling so that it can really dedupe, address the redundancy in data, and also give you that context that's enriched data so that you're saving costs, you're saving time, you're saving money, and able to actually action on it. And so when you put all that together, from Observo AI thinking about the data to actually thinking of behavioral and static AI in terms of the detections on it, to applying Purple AI on the agentic AI front, to hyperautomation, and then we can go into securing AI. It really is thinking about embedding AI across the entire flow.
yeah. And how do you think then that, so obviously we have all the good AIs.
Yep, we've got the good AI.
And all of you who know me know I talk about Neuromancer all the time, and you may not know what that is, but
Nope.
it's a really old book from like 1987 or 84, I think, that was basically about, it was very forward thinking. It was about people doing battle with AIs.
Gotcha.
So they literally had AIs to fight AI. So one of the things I see happening, and not yet, but I see it happening in the sense of when you get rogue AIs that you're introducing into your enterprise, how are we going to deal with those as well? Because these are more like agentic AI problems where now I've got all these non-humans I also need to identify, and I can't look out in the room and go, I know him.
Right.
I'm now like dealing with, I don't know who this is. It's
Yeah.
just some agentic AI, and we don't know how to know the good people from the bad people.
Totally. I think at this point, it's kind of a scary time, right? Because you have this exciting moment of agentic AI innovations on the good side. You are seeing the rise in AI threats from the attacker landscape. But at the same time, you're seeing businesses adopt AI at exponential rates. And employees are extremely excited, using like different models of different AI themselves. You don't know how they're using it. Developers may be using AI to code. There may be homegrown AI applications in the enterprise themselves. And so a big concern is, how are you accurately monitoring? Are you mitigating it in real time? What can you possibly do? And I think that's really critical for where prompt AI comes in, because prompt security comes in, because it considers these critical use cases. So today we announced several new SKUs that particularly address that concern with prompt for employees. We have prompt for developers, an AI code assistant. We have prompt for AI, homegrown AI apps, as well as in early access, prompt for agentic AI. And the whole notion of it is, in one seamless platform, you are able to, in real time, monitor employees' usage or developers' usage of AI, be able to mitigate any kind of prompt injection, data leakage. And that is so critical to protect your enterprise right now. I think right now for organizational leaders, it's about balancing both sides of that coin. So you're using AI for security, you are securing AI, and that's honestly for me what it means to be an enterprise in today's world.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any way around it.
Totally.
You know, I mean, and the introduction of ephemerals, you know, things, you know, and now we're going to have those, which just, oh, this popped up, solved a problem, went away, and I'd never seen again. All that just makes this almost an insurmountable problem for a traditional plural sysop sitting in the server room going, who is that?
Exactly.
All right. Thank you, Rachel Part, for coming on and joining us at OneCon 25. I want you to be sure and check out all our content from OneCon 25. I'm Doug White for Security Weekly News. This interview is sponsored by SentinelOne. And if you want to see more about that, visit securityweekly.com/OneCon, and you can find out all the good info. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you for having me.